This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Hey there, I'm Brian Sebastian with Movie Reviews and More, and here we are live around the world on K4HD Radio and Podcasting, Talkcore Media, TV, Radio, and Podcasting, streaming live on Worldwide TV Network, Ivor 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. Shut up, Sherri Jacobs. Worldwide TV Networks and WomenOnTV.tv. We're waiting for Howard Wiggins to come in because I think he's having problems in Nashville, but who will work with him? Rachel knows what that's like. Terry knows what that's like. I definitely know what that's like. Sherri was the last time that had that happen. And Ivor, you've gone through this stuff too. So let's start with this. Again, so author, educator, actor, all-around funny girl, and this is all off the top of my head, because Sherri, I've been laughing about you all day. I've been thinking about you all day of what you might say, your funny little voiceover things and things like that. But it's one of those things where I'm glad that she's on today. She's in her own home, and she's got good internet. So, author of 2 books. Let me see. Friendship Diet and Don't Tell Me, Dream Right. Sherri Davis.
Right, darling. Very good, very good. Obviously, the medication I gave you is working, darling. Very good.
So, from Houston, Texas, and we could hear her the whole time yelling at Troy, her son. This is a stay-at-home mom. Rachel Roberts, Chef Rachel Roberts Recipes, nonstop Terry Mead from Redondo Beach, California. Howard still hasn't appeared yet. And Ivor Davis. So here's an interesting thing about Ivor. I've been thinking about this for years now. I believe he's the only one in the world to do what he has done. From author, journalist, investigative reporter, covering the Charles Manson trial from beginning to end, talking to those members of the Manson clan, obviously going on tour with the Beatles, writing that great book about that first tour, being friends with Sir Paul McCartney, Ringo to this day, and being at the Ambassador Hotel when Robert Kennedy was assassinated. So
wow.
Only Ivor Davis. Ivor, it's good to see you because you've been doing a lot of stuff lately. So let's start with Ivor. We got to start with you real quickly, and then we're going to go to jump to Sherri and go back and forth. Ivor, what have you been doing lately? Because you got another book coming out, I think, or it just came out too, right?
Yeah, I want to say, Brian, that this is a thrilling day for me because I've never, ever been on a show with such a stunning lineup of gorgeous ladies.
Oh, thank you.
This is a unique experience for me. I'm an old geezer, and I don't get much chance to meet lovely ladies. And Brian, thank you for having me on. So I want to get that out of it. But I'm dying to hear what they all have to say. So I forget what you asked me. No, seriously. Okay. What is it you wanted to know, Brian? Go ahead, and I'll keep it down to 30 seconds.
Yeah, that won't last. So here's the thing. I got to say this about Ivor. For years, he covered, let's see, was it the Express, the Times of London, and I think the New York Syndicated for over 15 years.
New York Times Syndicate, yeah.
See, I'm going off the top of my head, Ivor, because I got so much stuff in my head. But the thing about this is, I believe you're the only one to do all the things that you've done around the world. I really don't think anybody else has duplicated your success. I really don't.
So, what do I say? I mean, where do you want to start? I mean, I'll just say this, that August is a weird month because everything happened
I was going to say that too. Everything's happening in August.
I mean, Elvis died at 42. The Beatles met Elvis, and it didn't go too well. Brian Epstein, who was the manager of the Beatles, died in August at a very young age. So August is a lot to talk about. But you basically said everything you can about me, and I'd love to hear, unless you have any specific questions, more from my co-programmers.
All right, let's take this step. Okay, Rachel Roberts, you get started off first. Go ahead, because you're from so farther away. Go ahead, Rachel. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Rachel Roberts Recipes. I'm here in Houston with Sherri. Sherri and I are very good friends. We've known each other for many years. Our children went to school together when they were little, and we love to get together and have fun, don't we, Sherri?
We do, Rachel.
Yes.
We definitely do. We do.
We have a lot of fun.
Okay, Sherri,
am I saying your name correctly, Ivor?
Yes, you are. You're saying it correctly, yeah.
Thank you. And you'll notice I have a propensity to change who I am with accents and demeanor based on who's speaking. So when Rachel and I are talking, all of a sudden I'm a Jew from New York again.
It's a Jewish. We become Jewish because that's where we are. We're in a very Jewish community over here. So that's, we're just trying to fit in, I guess.
I'm sorry, Brian, these two have got to do the comedy club. I mean, my God. One minute Sherri was English, and then Rachel suddenly does a Brooklyn, New York housewife we call mishpocha bit. I don't know if you know what mishpocha means. Anyway, go.
Okay, so wait till you hear Terry Marie then. Go ahead, tell them who you are.
Go ahead, Terry.
Okay. My name is Terry Marie. I'm here in California. I am a red carpet host. I've been with Brian for over 7 years. Fitness competitor, NFT designer, trader. What else do? I do everything. And I just this weekend. What? Really laughing. This weekend I got to go to a red carpet event, which I was very excited. We went to the Jack Webb Awards, which was to raise money for the LA Police Museum, which was hosted by William Shatner from Star Trek. So that was an honor to be there. Frank Lutz, he is a political commentator. He was there. Christine Devine from Fox News here in LA was there. The chief of police. It was a great event done by Raquel, who is going to be working with us for some publicity now. So I was able to bond with her. So it was a great weekend. Yeah, here's some of the pictures from the event. That's me and Raquel. And it was really kind of exciting because the police there got to where they were wearing all different uniforms from all kinds of different decades. But I don't know if you guys know who Jack Webb was, but he was an actor who portrayed police officer who basically became one of their own. And I just lost everybody. Can you see me? Because I can't see you.
Yeah. Keep going.
Okay. I can't see anything. I don't know what happened. I just lost everybody. That was just weird. But let me see. What else did I want to say about that? So, Greg Louganis was there. I think there was a picture of the two of us, or actually a group of us. Okay, I can see now. Did you show the picture of that picture?
You did.
Okay, yeah. So there was a picture of Greg Louganis, but I don't know if you got that or not. So anyway, it was a great event. It was, I didn't realize that William Shatner had supported the police department for all these years, but I guess it was an honor to be there, and it was a lot of fun. There's William Shatner right there. That was the VIP room, so we had a blast. And then and I really hit it up with Raquel, and I can't wait to work with her more. Brian, thank you for introducing me to her. She's going to do a lot of good publicity events. We're going to be working on some rock concerts together.
Ivor. All right, so let's start here. What's a favorite memory of yours of interviewing William Shatner? And then did you ever meet Jack Webb?
I went to see William Shatner when he lived in the hills above Studio City. And that was quite a few years ago. Did you know, Terry, that he lived in Studio City, North Hollywood, not North Hollywood, near Universal Studios?
Yeah, I knew that. I actually grew up in Sherman Oaks. My dad worked for Disney for 30 years. So he directed the planning department. So I grew up in that area. So I was around actors like my whole life. But yeah, I remember he was saying when he was talking to Brian that he brought, was it donuts that he brought, or he brought something over to the police department?
You would love this. He would bring bagels and lox to the police department for over 15 years, but they never knew who it was. And then one day, one of the guys came out and said, "Oh, it's you," because he never told anybody it was him delivering this for all the policemen.
Yeah, so I thought that was a very interesting story, you know. I was kind of bummed I didn't really get to talk to him because I really wanted to ask him how it was to go up in space. I'm fascinated with that whole.
Hey, you were in the same room with him. I don't know how it did not happen.
You know, I mean, it was one of those things where like there were so many different people, and like it was, you know.
Hey, Ivor, when you got that chance to see that celebrity, you got to get told talk to them, right? That's your assignment, right? Right on.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a question I just didn't get a chance to ask him. So next time.
You, Terry, no, you had a chance to meet William Shatner. Ivor, we're on you, right? When you're assigned to go and talk to these people, like when you went on that Beatles tour, you got to get that assignment done, right?
Well, you do have to. Look, I met Brian because Brian and I used to do so many celebrity junkets. You know what the junkets are. They bring in the stars and they bring out the media. And Brian was always terrific to have in the room because he asked the right questions and they could get really PO'd at times. But Brian was very good at that. And so I always tried to get into the room where Brian was. And you know.
No, that's not true. It was the other way around. See, I didn't know what Ivor did. And then when 2019, I discovered he's walking at the NAMM convention that Terry and I have been to. And he's got this book. I'm like, Ivor, what are you doing here?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I'm promoting my book about me and the Beatles. I'm like, what do you mean you and the Beatles? I never knew he was on tour with the Beatles because when you're doing all these interviews, we're interviewing all the celebrities. We don't really get a chance to find out each other's background. And so for years, I didn't know what he did. I didn't know he was there for the Charles Manson thing. I felt stupid at that point. I'm like, nobody told me. I didn't get the memo. I definitely didn't get the book. Now I have this book and I had to go buy it. You know, so all right, Ivor, back to you on that because talk about going on that tour because you didn't want to go on that tour with the Beatles.
Well, I was selling bagels on Fairfax when my editor in London called me and said, "The boys are coming to America." And I thought, who the heck are the boys? I mean, this was 1964, before any of you, including you, Brian, were actually born. Am I right or am I right? Anyway. So anyway, so I thought, who are the boys? And he said, well, they're the Beatles, stupid. Oh, well, okay. And to be honest with you, I thought, well, you know, I mean, I'd seen him on the Ed Sullivan Show, February 1964. I thought they were pretty good. But when I got there, my God, it was a crazy, crazy ticket to ride because it was a madhouse. You know, they were in limousine number 1. I was in limousine number 2. We traveled on their private jet. We hung out and these were the days you could hang out. They didn't have heavy security. I was in the next door hotel room. So, you know, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, I wanted a drink. I'd raid their mini bar. And to be honest with you, it went on for about 4 weeks until Brian Epstein, their manager, said to John, your room service charges are ridiculous. $50 this past week. Can you cut back on that? There it was. So, I mean, those were the days that were very different, a heck of a lot different. And I could walk into their room and John and I played Monopoly at 3 o'clock in the morning because he called me and said, well, I'm playing Monopoly. Well, okay, I'll go over. And while we were playing Monopoly, John would pick up the phone, much to Brian Epstein's chagrin, and make a long-distance phone call on the hotel phone. I mean, his hotel bill must have been for a week at least $70. I mean, that was on phone calls alone. And he would get on the phone in the middle of Monopoly, and it was it was Julian, and Julian was a baby, 1 year old. And John would get on the phone in the middle of a Monopoly game and go goo goo gaga and all that sort of stuff, which was expensive goo goo gaga, because it was about $3 a minute. So you cannot recapture the way it was. And then I'll tell you one other thing. And then all these young girls wanted to hold the Beatles' hands. So what did they do? They were maids, and they hid in the room service cart, and they would do anything to meet the boys. Sometimes the boys didn't mind meeting them. Now, if Terry and Rachel and Sherri were young Beatle fans, I can tell you the Beatles would have loved to have met you.
Sherri. That would make an interesting night out.
Oh my God.
So
Well, they didn't have the internet. They didn't have distractions.
They didn't have the internet. And I always say that my only regret in 1964 on the first American tour was I never took my iPhone with me. And you know why? Because it wasn't born. The iPhone was not born back then.
That's right.
So it's a whole different world. And when I talk to my grandkids, they said, why didn't you take more pictures? And I said, well, it was hard. Anyway, there are a few pictures around, and Brian has seen a couple, but it was a different time. It was a different time. And I would tell all you young, ambitious, attractive, intelligent young women, including Brian, who's a little bit older than, and to write it down. When you're going through history, you don't realize you're going through history. So keep a diary. I keep telling my kids, keep diaries, because 20 years from now, you'll forget you were on the Brian Sebastian show with a worldwide audience, but you'll have it down or on your computer.
Does John Lennon's daughter know that her father was calling her? Like, does she know that how he went out of his way to?
I didn't quite get you because you broke up, Sherri.
Sorry.
John Lennon didn't have a daughter; it was a son.
Oh, his son. Sorry, John.
Yeah, okay.
Did
John Lennon's son, Julian.
Julian, did he know Dad was calling me?
He knew Dad was making funny noises at $2 an hour or $2 a second, because it was expensive. But I mean, John just wanted to hear the baby, 1-year-old kid at the time.
Right. I meant now, like if he got to have that information, like my dad was going out of his way for me.
That's right. I mean, I don't think he appreciated it then because he was too young.
I meant like
now.
Because
now he would appreciate that.
He would appreciate
it. Because his life was taken so young. So to have that, like, oh, look what my dad did for me. Like,
I think now, look, when John married Yoko, there was an estrangement a bit from the child from the first marriage. And so I think it took a long time because Yoko wanted her, they had a baby together. They had Sean. And so there was a discomfort because a lot of people said Yoko stole John from Cynthia. I don't think so. But I'll just say one thing and let you guys talk. At the time, John was looking for new things. John married Cynthia because she got pregnant. I mean, that's what you did in England in those days. And he outgrew her. She was a lovely lady, but she was, she had a limited horizon. And John wanted to embrace the world, and he did. Anyway, I don't want to go on too long, but go ahead.
No, keep going.
I'm loving it. Yeah.
Hey, Sherri, tell.
I mean, I'll just tell you one other thing. John was a provocateur. John would needle you. He loved to get. I mean, he'd say, let's say, hello, Sherri and Terry. You're going to do a comedy show, the Sherri and Terry show. I mean, he was so fast with his sense of humor. And I'm going to throw the question back to Brian. Brian, you know, and I know, and I've just written a chapter in my new book about Robin Williams. I mean, what a sensational brain he was, right, Brian?
Absolutely. You know, Robin's death still touches me because I've always felt that if I had his phone number and his email, we weren't allowed to do that. Ivor probably had it, but I didn't have it. But David Sheen had it. So, you know, communicating on Robin in the radio room, we would have a radio room at the Four Seasons, and Robin would come in. He knew we couldn't laugh or we couldn't make noises or anything like that. He would come in, shut the door, lock the door, and make us laugh. And we would have just so much fun, 23, half an hour, because he didn't want to leave. So he liked us at that point. And then every room was different. And then, Ivor, you probably had one-on-ones with Robin, right?
Yes, I did. And you know what I would do, Brian? I wish I'd re-release. I wish I released the Robin Williams interview as an album. He was. I can't tell you. He had such a lightning brain. You know, he would say. I mean, he would get your name like Terry, and he'd go, and then Perry, and then he'd sing like Perry Como. You know, I mean that. And Perry Como was a singer, by the way. People.
No, we know.
So I mean, Brian, wasn't his brain was just unbelievable. You know, his addiction.
Comedian that I've ever met was him.
Yeah, I mean, the problem was Robin was addicted not only to cocaine and a few other things, but he was addicted to being funny, and he couldn't sit down in a room
Sherri,
without
you know that.
performing. Am I right, Brian?
Absolutely. Yes, I mean that's one of the things about meeting someone like that. But talk about this, Ivor. Then we go to Sherri on her books. Talk about being at the Ambassador Hotel with Robert Kennedy that night.
Yeah.
When he was assassinated.
No.
Okay, so I was covering Kennedy because he was going to be a presidential candidate. He went up against a guy called Senator Eugene McCarthy, and he beat McCarthy in California. And California has a lot of votes. And we had been in the day before his death. We had been in San Francisco. We went down to San Diego. We drove back to LA. I saw Bobby Kennedy about 7 p.m. that night. He was sitting in John Frankenheimer's house on the beach,
Oh, I love that.
asleep. Frankenheimer was a famous director who was a buddy of Bobby Kennedy, and he was lying. He was lying on one of those lounges, and he was fast asleep. And I thought, my God, he's so fast asleep, he looks like he's dead. And we went to the Ambassador Hotel. Bobby knew he'd won. He said, you know, on to Chicago. We followed him because he was going to have a press conference. They took a shortcut through the kitchen, and I was about 15, 20 yards behind. Bobby went through to the kitchen. I heard balloons popping, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I heard screaming. I stepped into the kitchen, and there was Bobby bleeding on the floor with Ethel holding him in her arms. And she shouted to everyone, give him air. And it was just a horrible, frozen moment in time that one will never forget. And within 8 hours, he was dead.
Oh, jeez. That's so crazy.
And you know, I've watched film footage of that night, live film footage, and I was there, and I'm in the film footage. But people, if you said, let's say Rachel, Sherri, or Terry, you see a car accident, and you all give a different version.
Right.
Well, pretty well. And this is what was happening. You know, there's a lady in a polka dot dress. What happened to her? There was a guy in a business suit. Where did he go? It was bedlam. It was insane. People just were in shock, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, you have to be in shock with something like that. It's just, you know, what do you do with it? You know?
Yes.
Wow.
So,
And even the way you describe it, like the popping of the balloons, because even though you see it in front of you, you said it was a few yards in front of you, the assassination, your brain doesn't immediately assume gunshot. Your brain immediately assumes the popping of a balloon.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it didn't sound like gunfire, but then when I saw Bobby bleeding and Ethel cradling his head in her arms, and and people, and there was, the kitchen was crowded, and there was a body underneath 6 guys, and that was a guy called Sirhan, because everybody jumped on him and buried him, and took him, and the cops came and took him away. But you've got to understand, it was a furnace of discomfort, and people were crying, women were screaming, "Not again!" Because that's what happened to John. And the awful irony was that Bobby would have gone on to become the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party that year, but he was gone.
Wow, that's a crazy story.
I gotta ask you this, and Sherri, I'm coming right to you.
Yeah.
What was that drive home like for you, Ivor?
Sorry, I didn't hear that again. I'm sorry.
What was that drive that night after that happened? What was that like for you going home?
Well, I want to tell you something. My wife was staying at some friend's house in Beverly Hills, and I was going to pick her up and take her home. We lived in Studio City at the time. I was so busy covering the story that I didn't call her until 3 a.m. And there was reports of journalists being wounded. There were journalists being wounded, and to be honest with you, my mind went into work. And at 3 a.m., I called my wife and said, "I'm going to pick you, Sally. I'm going to pick you up." And she said, "Where have you been? Why didn't you call earlier?" Because she had heard on the news what was going on, but me as a journalist just fixated on the moment and what was happening. And I kicked myself that I didn't say, "I'm okay, but Bobby's been shot. I'll see you later." And so when I went home that night, I mean, I couldn't sleep because I went straight back to the hospital the next morning about 7 a.m. And it was a frenzy. It was something that one will never ever forget.
Howard, we got you? So we were just talking about Ivor being at the Ambassador Hotel the night that Robert Kennedy was assassinated. Howard, you there?
I think he might be frozen.
I think he's definitely frozen. Yeah.
He's frozen.
Okay. So Sherri,
Technology.
And I just, what a pivotal moment, not just for that you were at there. I mean, which affected the trajectory of the world. Talk about a butterfly effect on steroids. You look at where we are now as a world, as the United States, all the tension, you wonder about the butterfly effect of that moment, So.
I mean, look, he would become presidential candidate. And I want to tell you, I'll just add one more thing because I don't want to monopolize things. When he was on the road, he was so popular that I saw his hands the night, hours before he got shot. And they were raw because he went on the road and he was touching people. They wanted to touch him. And his hands were raw. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous. Everybody wanted to shake hands with him, grab him. Of course, you wouldn't get that today because today it's, you keep your distance. So here was a man that was so popular, and yet, within hours he was gone.
Sherri, tell Ivor from one author to another and the audience about your books.
God, it's an honor to meet with you just as a human being, the things you've covered. And just from one writer to another, I've been paying attention to the way you describe things. So again, an honor to meet you. The books, absolutely. You talked before, Ivor, about the importance of journaling, writing as a testament, because we are history and we don't realize it until hindsight. So one of the books that I've written is for children. I'm actually changing my pen name. That's a whole nother story of history in itself. But the book I wrote is called Dream Right, and it's a play on words. And at the end of the book, it offers the child an opportunity to face their fears by altering whatever it is that's emotionally traumatic for them, and using the pen almost as a sword to write the ending they want to experience. So it puts the onus and the power into the child's hands. And
Cooper's favorite book.
kids end up falling in love with this book.
That is, that's my 7-year-old's favorite book.
It's really powerful because you get to, oh, must have been something I said.
Keep going. Now he's going to show you something.
I'm being facetious. But this came about because my son at the time, who was about 4 years old, he was having a bad dream about a bear chasing him. So I said, well, what if how do you know the bear is scary? Maybe he's lonely. Maybe he wants to be your friend. What if he has like lipstick and wears a tutu and you get to eat chocolate chip cookies together and play Twister? And by the end of, bedtime with him, he was giggling and felt empowered. He wasn't scared anymore. And you see this again and again. It's a form of cognitive psychology where the way you think creates your experience. And we know this as adults, but what a powerful thing this is to give to children. Humor, and I do all kinds of voices when I present it. So that's that one.
All right, hold that thought. Ivor, what did you go get?
Well, I want to show you my children's book. Ladies and gentlemen, the Penguins.
I love it.
I didn't mean, and so if you guys want it, for your young children, I'm very happy to send it to you.
Oh,
And
yes.
Can I just tell you briefly what it is? Let me take 45 seconds. So I'm doing a lecture tour on the cruise ships, and we stop in a place called the Falkland Islands. And the Falkland Islands is about 300 miles from Argentina. And I land on the island, and they're all English. Absolutely. There's about 2,000 English people and 1 million penguins. And so I suddenly think, well, why don't I do a story about the 4 penguins who want to become rock stars like the Beatles? So I write a story, and I'm going to give you the punchline in a minute. The first show that the penguins appear on, they fly to New York. They can't actually fly, penguins, so they have to take a plane, and they appear on the famous show called the Ed Pelican Show. And their first big hit song is "I Want to Hold Your Flipper," and they're sensational. They're sensational. But the really punchline is that the 4 penguins are called Sadie, Elias, Ezra, and Elias, Ezra. I just had a mental, but on my 4th. The point of it is my 4 grandkids are named the Penguins.
Oh, I love
and so when I went on the road to libraries and did readings, they came with me and they signed the book. They autographed the book. Sadie, Ezra, Levi, and Elias. Okay, so that's the name of the Penguins, the rock stars of wherever.
Ivor, talk about
it's so beautiful.
Tell the girls about the night that Elvis met the Beatles, because you were the only journalist there.
Yeah, well, what happened was the Beatles wanted to meet Elvis. John did in 1964, but they were all too busy. Elvis was making 3 lousy movies a year. And anyway, I went along there. It was very uncomfortable because I didn't realize at the time Elvis was jealous of the Beatles because they knocked him off the hit parade, number one. Number 2, Elvis was making 3 crappy movies a year. Well, they're not that crappy when you look at them again, but 3 movies a year is a lot. And the Beatles made 1 movie called A Hard Day's Night, and it was a smash hit. And then I learned later that Elvis was jealous of the Beatles because 4 days before they came, we all went to the house. The Beatles appeared at Shea Stadium. 55,700 fans, smash hit. And Elvis had not appeared live since he came out of the American army. He was in the army. So all those little elements added up to a kind of not hostile, but an uncomfortable welcome for the. And they said we'll all get together. They finally kind of kissed and made up. They played a bit of music together, but they never met each other again. And I'll tell you one other footnote to show you that Elvis was jealous of the Beatles. So somebody did a documentary about 2 or 3 weeks ago and worked for Colonel Tom Parker, who was Elvis's manager. And they lived at Graceland. And he said to me, when the Beatles came out with a new album, the Memphis Mafia, and the Memphis Mafia were the buddies of Elvis. I mean, they weren't members of the American Mafia. They were his cronies. The cronies or the Memphis Mafia would buy a new Beatle album, take it back to Graceland and play it in Graceland where Elvis lived in Memphis. But they said we didn't want to play it too loudly because if Elvis heard us enjoying the Beatles, he would get upset. So there you go.
So you got to talk about this, Ivor. Now, this was like
I want to hear from Terry. I want to hear from Rachel. Come on.
Well, I'm going to go to him, but you got to ask this question first. What time at night did this happen? Because this was like in the middle of the night, wasn't it?
Well, no, we went along. You mean going when they went to meet the Beatles?
Well, no, when they went to Elvis's house.
Okay, yeah, it was about 9 o'clock at night. We all went in one limousine, 2 limousines. We showed up at Beatles' house, at Elvis's house. The Beatles by then had taken a few puffs of marijuana, so they were feeling no pain. And John jumps out the car. We all walk to the front door, and John says in his usual provocative way, "We've come to see the owner." And the owner, oh, okay. So we all march in and we sit down, and we sit around for 20 minutes. Nobody introduces Elvis to the Beatles. The Beatles were in awe of Elvis. And finally, Elvis said, after about 20 minutes of using his remote control on the TV and the jukebox was playing, he said, I'm going to bed unless you guys came here to jam. Well, that was that broke the ice. And they played music for about 20 minutes and they started talking and they warmed up to each other. But it wasn't, believe me, whatever you hear and read, I was there. It was not if I came to your house, I think you'd welcome me, you'd give me a hug. None of that. And it didn't happen. And then afterwards, as I said, the Beatles went on. Elvis was jealous, and unfortunately, they never met each other again.
Howard, are you there? Howard, are you there? All right.
Yes, sir.
Oh, you are? Go ahead and ask a question. We can't see you, but you have to ask a question to Ivor. He's just talking about Elvis meeting the Beatles.
It sounds like a Halloween movie. I can't hear it.
Hey, so Howard, if you can type it into the box, I'll ask a question for you. So while he's doing that, Sherri, tell him about your other book. Give you 2 minutes.
Oh, have I got books?
And then Rachel, we're going to you, and then Terry, we're going to you. Go ahead.
Okay. And like you,
Sherri.
I 30 seconds. 30 seconds. I love food. I love relationships. And if I wrote a book, a humorous book, using the metaphor of our emotional nutrition and our edible nutrition. It's called the Friendship Diet. Clean out your fridge, get real with yourself, and fill your life with meaningful relationships that last. And just like this book, there's a writing section at the end of every chapter. And like I said, they're funny, like Diet Coke denial, Happy Meal dating, microwave madness, how to keep your, what was it? I have so many fun chapters. I should remember what I write. Irrational nutrition, why the coffee date, a well-stocked fridge will help keep your knickers on. So I use.
Can you send me that chapter, please?
Do you need a well-stocked fridge, Ivor?
I need someone to look after my fridge.
Well, there you go. You need this book. You need it. This will have you fulfilled.
All right, Sherri, give your social media links. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, some media links.
And then Sherri, talk about that play right.
What am I? Oh, right.
Sherri,
So I
where do you?
That's my website. And
Tell us.
and then I also write
Tell us.
on what? Tell you
Social
what?
media-
Sherri,
social media links.
Sherri-jacobs.com.
Correct.
You got to say it out loud, Sherri.
Exactly.
There it is. There it is. There it is.
Jacobs.com.
All right.
Yeah.
Rachel,
All
go ahead. What did you make
And
tonight?
then I also write on
Okay.
Medium. I write on Medium. Also on Medium. That's a great
Okay.
place to write. Yeah.
We love you,
All right.
Shelly. We love you. All right. So every week I make something. I made salmon steak. Woo!
Yeah.
Salmon steak with garden tomatoes, goat cheese drizzled, balsamic, and some basil from the garden. Healthy, but drink a little dirty. So this really isn't so dirty. This is prosecco with some wild berries and some mint from the garden. That's, Brian knows I'll drink a little bit dirtier than that. But that's what happened this week, and I'm really excited. I've got Jimmy Allen is coming to see me this week. He's a director, a friend of mine, and we're going to talk about doing a cooking show. So, yeah.
Coffee talk.
Coffee talk. See me every morning for coffee. It's now that school has started for my little one. I'm on much earlier. So yeah, 5:30 a.m. You can join me for some of that Java pura. That's coffee.
Yeah, Rachel, I don't have food tonight. Can I come over and take that?
Are you kidding me? Come on. Oh yes. Always invited. Always.
All right, Terry. Talk about, you got something coming up with a rock band pretty soon again, right?
Oh, I'm filming this weekend. We're Wicked Star. We're filming the rock video this weekend here in Rancho PD. Actually, what was kind of funny is Raquel has actually worked with them because she works with rock band. So I did need to let you guys know too that the Los Angeles Museum is having a golf tournament in October. And also, if you want to see any of Raquel's events, you can go to her website, which is Raquel, and the last name is spelled FIGLO.com. I told her I would give her a plug on that for her events. And let me see what else. I'm training for a fitness show, and I'm working on my NFTs. And my social media is TerryMarieOfficial.com, and then nonstop Terry Marie on all platforms. And then if you want to see my goofy TikTok dancing videos, which Rachel seems to love, you can go on TikTok.
Okay, so Ivor, let's talk about this. We got about 5 minutes left. What have you been watching movie-wise, and what do you think of doing things virtually? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I just want to make sure I did hear that I can come over for the salmon steak.
He's hungry.
Yes. I will take good care of you.
Okay, thank you. Well, it looks succulent. How about, can I use that word succulent at this time of night?
So here's another thing. When we go do Santa Barbara Film Festival, so you have Terry. We'll even invite Sherri if she can get away, and then Rachel will come with us.
Great. Okay, Santa Barbara Film Festival, great fun. It's a terrific festival, isn't it, Brian?
Absolutely.
It's fun. I've been.
It's one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
All right. So virtually, what do you think of doing things virtually? And what do you been watching movie wise? Anything? And who else you been interviewing?
There is so much to watch. I must tell you, you need a tour guide. I like the guy. I think it's on Apple. The guy, the guy that's winning all the Emmys for
Ted
Lasso.
Lasso.
Ted Lasso. I love that. I love the girls on Ted Lasso. I love the lady that sings. And there is so much. I want to know from you. I will throw the question back. How do you sort it out? How do you manage to say, I'm watching the Paul Newman, Joanne Woodward documentary. I'm watching the Woodward documentary.
So good.
Yeah, and there's so much there. Surely, is there a way to organize your lives to see what you want to see? Please tell me if there is.
There is no way to do it because there's so much product out there now. There's just no way. I mean, I'm purposely not watching Apple stuff because I don't have the time with everything else I go through. I literally have 4 monitors there. You can't see it. One to the right. One to the left. I got the 2. One, my phone is broken, by the way. The other one's out.
Stop it.
I'm just watching. Hint, Rachel. But all that stuff.
I'm sending it.
It is hard.
You'll get it.
But I would tell you this. I did like the Gray Man on Netflix. I am watching WWE right now because WWE Universe is going to WrestleMania to Hollywood next year. So we'll have everybody in doing that. So Rachel, what are you watching? Sherri, what are you watching? And Terry, what are you watching? Go ahead.
All at the same time?
No.
I'm watching that Evo on something. It's like all of it. Spit out. I'm watching Evil. It's really dark. I don't recommend anybody watch it. You might be bringing the dark side in.
I mean, no, I just turn on the news. That's evil. No, I watch Westworld with my son. He's 15. It probably wouldn't be my first choice, but it's a way to bond with him, and it is very philosophical. It makes you question like what we're in right now, this whole AI, and when does the soul begin with all this technology and
what is that?
You got being replaced.
Kind of like Black Mirror.
Westworld on HBO. The other one that I just started by myself is Never Have I Ever, and the main character is an Indian girl. She's 15, and that's the kind I just finished writing a manuscript where the main character is 15. So I love that kind of stuff. Yeah.
All right. Before we go to Terry, Howard, do we have
Sherri, talk about where you write.
Hold on.
Talk about what?
Howard, do we have Howard just asked because he hasn't been here. Howard, ask the question.
What are we talking about?
Howard, go ahead and ask your question. Howard.
I forgot my cigarette. Brian, what are we talking about?
No, Howard, do we have you?
I think he's frozen again.
He makes a beautiful wax figure.
Madam Waxwork.
Should read that?
All right, go ahead, Terry.
Terry, read.
What are you watching?
What am I watching? I really hate to say this, but between working my full-time job, training, I'm training. I'm doing my course. I'm doing my artwork. I haven't really watched anything in the last month. I really hate to say it.
Okay.
I just haven't. I mean, it's like sometimes, I don't know. My day is so compacted right now that I don't even have time to relax.
I like to watch Terry.
I
like to watch Terry on TikTok. That's what I like to watch.
All right, Terry, talk about your TikTok real quick. Hold on. Terry, talk about your TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my TikTok? Oh, it's just me being silly. I've always been into rock music. So it's 80s, 90s genres.
Ivor, you got to look up Terry dancing.
Yeah, so it's just.
Oh my gosh, Ivor, you have to look up Terry dancing.
Like you're very sexy.
Yeah, the world has got to see you do this.
All right,
and Terry, let's wait. How old are you?
Rachel, hold on.
I don't. No one needs to know my age.
What? You don't got a lot of time left.
No, that's incredible.
Terry Marie. Non-stop Terry Marie.
Okay, and now Sherri, tell us about where you write every day.
Thank you. All right, because I have no life.
Got 30 seconds, Terry.
Okay, I go to medium.com, Google my name, Sherri Jacobs. I write articles on there daily. I take my family's dogs and I do op-ed pieces politically from the dog's point of view. I write about love lives. I write about humor, drama, anything you could think of. I'm just I'm a whore with writing.
Okay. Just like the Ivor, give you a social media link so people can reach out to you. Go ahead.
Oh, social media. Oh, I've been told I have a low social platform. So I'm taking stretching exercises so that I can be taller. And that's good.
That's good.
I sent you a friend request, Ivor.
Ivor, I didn't hear your social media link.
You have to
What is-
add me on
Oh,
Facebook.
Rachel, hold on.
It's
Ivor, give
Ivor
your social
Davis
media.
books@gmail.com. And that's it. That's all I can say at the
One more
moment.
time. One more time. I didn't
Ivor
hear.
Davis books@gmail.com.
Okay.
And I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twittergram and TikTok and Knock Knock and
I
Bang
love
Bang.
Instagram.
Okay. And with that, I got to thank everybody. Unfortunately, Howard didn't get a chance to get on. We got to get a better internet. All right. Terry Murray, nonstop from Redondo. Thank you. Thank you, Sherri Jacobs from Houston, Texas. Rachel Roberts Recipes. Follow her. Ivor Davis. Go on the site. Buy his books. And I have to say this. Have a good night tonight. Better day tomorrow. If you see someone without a smile, please give them more yours because the world needs it. I'm Brian Sebastian. This is Movie Reviews and More. And we will see you next week.
See you guys.